overcome the potency of the Supreme Lord? That question is being answered. That question was answered by no, people, not Pipalayana. That question was answered by Prabuddha. Na? Prabuddha. Now he is asking, he asked the next question, which we saw yesterday. Narayanabhidanasya Brahmana Paramatmanaha Nishtamarghata no Vaktum Yuyam hi Brahmavittama. Please explain to me the transcendental position of Lord Narayan. So we discussed the first shloka. Just briefly, I will go through the meaning, and then we'll go to the 36th shloka. So Pipalayana gave the answer. Sthityudbhava pralaya hetura heturasya yat swapna jhagara sushuptishu sadbhishcha dehendriyasu hridayani charantiyena sanjeevitani tadavehi param narendra. The Supreme Lord is the cause of creation, maintenance and annihilation. He has no prior cause. He pervades the states of Jagrati, Swapna and Sushupti, and he also exists beyond them, Sadbhishcha. And he enters into the heart of all the living entities of the super soul. And in that way, he only activates all the subtle and gross organs of the body. Sanjeevitani. So, my dear king, know that personality of Godhead to be the supreme. So, he described the first line of the shloka, he described the position of Bhagavan. Second line, he describes the Brahman feature. And the third line, he describes the Paramatma feature. So in this shloka purport, yesterday we discussed Hetur Aheturasya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of creation, maintenance and annihilation. Therefore, he is called as a Hetu. But there is no cause for the Supreme Lord. So therefore, he is called as Ahetu. This is the first meaning. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, but he has no cause. Namo namaste kilakaranaya nishkaranayat bhutakaranaya. Same. The second meaning is that the Supreme Lord in the form of Mahavishnu, he is the Hetu. He is the cause of this universe. But the Swayam Bhagavan as Krishna, he is aloof from the universe. Therefore, he is Ahetu. In that way, the meaning Ahetu is given. The Supreme Lord Krishna is Ahetu or causeless, or he is aloof from the cause of the material creation. But the Mahavishnu is the cause of this world. This is the second meaning. And the third and fourth meaning, what is explained is that the living entities are actually the cause of this world, because they are the primary cause, because they have a desire to enjoy independently from the Lord. Therefore, living entities can also be considered as Hetu. In this case, the Ahetu is not explained, but living entities can also be considered as Hetu. The next point which is explained is that the living entities, although they desire, but the Lord carries out creation, maintenance, and annihilation through the material nature. Therefore, material nature can also be considered as the Hetu for the creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha. So these are the meanings given for the Hetu and Ahetu. And then Paramatma and Bhagavan, they are also explained here. Paramatma and Brahman. So when a person transcends an official understanding of the Supreme Lord and comes to the superior status of love of Godhead, one can understand that Krishna is the Swayam Bhagavan. So one understands Narayana to be Bhagavan. That is the official understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let us go to the 36th shloka. You can repeat after me. Naitanmano vishati vaguta chakshuratma pranendriyani chayatanalamarchishasva शब्दोपि बोधकनि निषेधयात्ममूल अर्थोक्तमाह यदृतेन निषेधशक्तिः निषेधसिद्धिः.
Neither the mind nor the faculties of speech, sight, intelligence, the life air, or any of the senses are capable of penetrating that supreme truth. Any more than small sparks can affect the original fire from which they are generated. Not even the authoritative language of the Vedas can perfectly describe the supreme truth, since the Vedas themselves disclaim the possibility that the truth can be expressed by words. But through indirect reference, the Vedic sound does serve as evidence of the supreme truth, since without the existence of that supreme truth, the various restrictions found in the Vedas would have no ultimate purpose.
See, let us remember, let us keep in mind the question asked by Nimi Maharaj. He asked about what is the position of that Narayana. Who is that Narayana? He asked about the Narayanabidanasya Brahmana Paramatmana. Please explain the transcendental situation of Narayana, who is himself the Brahman and the Paramatma. So in this particular shloka, Naitan mano vishati vag uta chakshuratma. Neither the mind, mano vishati, Brahman cannot be understood by the mind. What to speak of the words? Uta, the word uta is used generally. If this cannot be possible, then what to speak of this? Like that. So then what to speak of the words? Because why it is said the Brahman cannot be understood by the mind? Because mind is the king of all the senses. If it cannot be understood even with the mind, then what to speak of? The words, vak. And what to speak of the eyes? And what to speak of the Atma is translated as intelligence. So what to speak of the intelligence? Or the prana, what to speak of the life years? How can the life years understand the Brahman? Or the indriya, the senses? And then analogy is given. Yathanalam archisha swa. Archisha means sparks. Just like sparks arising from the fire cannot reveal the fire. Cannot reveal the fire. And the next line, Shabdopi bodhaka nisheda tayatma moolam. Shabdopi, here Shabda refers to the Vedas. Not even the authoritative language of the Vedas can perfectly describe the supreme truth. This is Zoom is disconnected.
It is connected, we are able to see.
Okay. Take it. I have to connect it again. कोई connection तो है. Who said it's connected?
No, Proji, you are disconnected, Proji. Your sound is coming, but your sharing is not there.
Acha.
You had shared that document, that is not there.
Oh, sound is going through
Through this desktop.
some. Okay. ये Zoom क्यों आ रहा है? Connect नहीं हो रहा. इंटरनेट तो सिग्नल है थोड़ा लो. Zoom unable to establish Wi-Fi. सिग्नल है.
Recording in progress.
सडनली थोड़ा डिस्कनेक्ट हुआ. शब्दोपि बोधक निषेध तयात्म मूलम. Not even the authoritative language of the Vedas can perfectly describe the supreme truth. Since the Vedas themselves disclaim the possibility that the truth can be expressed by words. Or another translation, Bhanu Maharaj. The wise say that Brahman, though expressed in the words, Shabdaha api bodhaka, is not subject to understanding. So we will see what is the meaning of this particular statement. It's explained in the purport in more detail. Arthoktam means through indirect reference, the Vedic sound acts as a evidence for the absolute truth. Arthoktam aha. Yadrite na nisheda siddhihi. Because without the existence of the supreme truth, the various nisheda vakya, various restrictions, nishedas found in the Vedas would have no ultimate purpose. Since without the existence of the Brahman, rite means except. Without the existence of the Brahman, these negative statements, nisheda siddhihi, concerning Brahman would have no meaning. So, the first is the analogy of fire and spark is elaborated. The Vedanta Sutra says that Janmadhyasya yataha, the supreme absolute truth is the source of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. The sparks are generated from the fire, but they have no power to illuminate the original fire. Krishna is the source, aham sarvasya prabhavo. But the minute living entities who are compared to the sparks of a fire can never equal the Supreme Lord in the quantity of their potency. So the It's like a 1 kilo potato and 1 kilo gold. Both are equal in weight, but in value wise, 1 kilo potato may be 40 kilo, 1 kilo gold is several thousands of rupees, or several lakhs. So the spirit soul has the same quality as the Supreme Lord, but quantity wise, the Supreme Lord is always superior. So for this sentence, beautiful sentence. Therefore, when a foolish conditioned soul tries to illuminate the subject matter of the highest truth with his tiny brain, he merely illuminates his own foolishness. Very beautiful sentence. He merely illuminates his own foolishness. So therefore, the blazing fire of perfect knowledge that burns to ashes the insignificant speculations and theories of the so-called philosophers and scientists regarding the absolute truth is spoken by the Supreme Lord in the Gita. But in the Vedas, in many sentences, for example, it's explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has got supreme seeing power, hearing power, touching power, smelling power. He has got supreme sensory power. And this is explained in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Pranasya pranam uta chakshushas chakshuruta shrotrasya shrotram annasyanam manaso ye manoviduhu. The supreme truth is understood to be the life here sustaining everyone's life here, the vision of everyone's eyes, the hearing power of the eyes. Pranasya pranam, chakshusha chakshur, shrotrasya shrotram. Means like his sensory power only sustains the sensory power of everyone. So therefore, the obvious conclusion is that one can know the supreme truth only by his own causeless mercy and not by our own foolish attempts to understand the supreme absolute truth through mental speculation or intelligence. Again, Taittiriya Upanishad says that yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. The power of speech and the speculative mind cannot achieve him. So you may see the contradiction. The Vedas, they actually describe the absolute truth. What is the third sutra of the Vedanta Sutra? First is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Second is Janmadhyasya Yataha. Third is Shastra Mulatvat or Shabda Mulatvat. The third sutra essentially means that the Vedas are the only way to know the absolute truth. Vedas are the pramana. That's the third sutra. So Vedas, Shrutis are descriptions of the absolute truth, but then in this shloka it is said that Shabdopi Bodhaka Nisheda Tayatma Moolam Artoktamaha. So although that means even the Vedic, not even the authoritative language of the Vedas can describe the absolute truth. Like that, this verse says that. Although the Vedic Shruti forbids us to speculate upon the absolute truth, such restrictive injunctions indirectly constitute positive assertions of the existence of the supreme living entity. So in the Vedas, restrictions are mentioned. You cannot know the absolute truth with your mind or with your words. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. This is like a nisheda vakya, restrictive injunctions. So the purpose of such restrictive statements is to forbid a person to understand the absolute truth through mental speculation, but rather to inspire the Jivatma to surrender to the absolute truth through devotion. That is the purpose of the devotional, that is the purpose of those restrictive statements. Otherwise, Gita, Krishna says that Vedesha Sarver Ahameva Vedya, by all the Vedas I am to be known. But here it is said that even the language of the Vedas cannot describe the absolute truth perfectly. But the Vedas are describing the absolute truth. So the purpose of such statement is that don't approach the absolute truth through the mental speculation, but approach through devotional surrender. Sridhar Swami has said that Sarvasya Nishedasya Savaditvat. Every negative injunction is understood to have a specific limit. So it's like, for example, in this world also there are certain nishedas, certain rules are given. Say, during COVID time, no vehicles in the road. Nisheda is given, prohibition is given by the government. And then they say, except ambulance, police, vehicles with a special permission which carry the necessary, say, vegetables or other things. So there is a Nisheda Vakya, but it has a limit. So negative injunctions cannot be taken as applicable in all cases. Sarvasya Nishedasya Savaditvat. So, for example, no living entity can be equal to or greater than the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the absolute truth is called as Asamordhva. At the same time, we have description that Krishna assumes the position of a child. Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda, he carries the shoes of Nanda Maharaj. Yashoda binds Krishna with the ropes. So that means is the Asamordhvam statement invalid? No, Asamordhvam is valid, but it has a limit. Where does it not have a limit? In the realm of Vrindavan, in the realm of the prema between Krishna and the devotees. So negative injunction therefore may sometimes be adjusted according to the transcendental situation. So although the supreme truth is transcendental to the material creation and therefore beyond the scope of the material senses, but when the same senses are saturated with the love of Godhead, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, or Atashri Krishna Namadi Na Bhaved Grahyam Indriyai. The first two lines are the Nisheda. But the next line is Sevon Mukhehi Jihvado Swayam Eva Suratyada. So the Sevon Mukhe, the devotional surrender, is like an adapter through which the American laptop wire can access the Indian electricity. The American laptop wire, it cannot access the Indian electricity, but the adapter, when you put the adapter through that, you can access. So, and then Krishna told Arjuna, Natumam shakyase drashtum aneynaiva svachakshusha divyam dadami te chakshu pashyame yogamaishwaram. I will give you the divine eyes by which you can hold my mystic opulences. And there are many evidences in the Srimad Bhagavatam how Krishna revealed himself to Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Kardama Muni. Therefore, the Vedic assertion that the absolute truth is beyond the power of the senses refer to those who don't have the transcendental senses. But by the Lord's own transcendental senses, which are the source of our limited senses, are confirmed the Shruti as in the following statement from the Kena Upanishad. So, Kena Upanishad says that Yad Vachanu Byuditam Yena Vag Abhyudyate Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. Brahman should be understood to be that which cannot be ascertained by the power of speech. Speech itself is evinced by that supreme truth. So Narada Muni said that Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. He told that how the senses should be engaged in the service of the absolute truth. So our limited senses must become connected to the Lord's unlimited senses, and thus by the Lord's mercy he can be understood. Madhvacharya quotes a verse from Brahma Tarka, Anando Nedrisha Ananda Ityukte Lokata Param Pratibhati na Chabati Yatavad Darshanam Vina. The transcendental bliss of the absolute truth cannot be compared to the ordinary happiness of the material world. The transcendental bliss of the absolute truth cannot be compared to the ordinary happiness of the material world. So Vedanta Sutra, the absolute truth is described as Anandamaya or full of bliss. So sometimes, because the nature of the absolute truth, the transcendental happiness is way different from the ordinary happiness in this world. The transcendental form of the Lord is way different from the ordinary forms of this world. Therefore, the Vedas sometimes describe that he does not have eyes, he does not have ears, he does not have a form. In order to drive the point that the form of the Supreme Absolute Truth is completely different from the form we have. It doesn't mean that he is absolutely formless. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti, he is saying that Sri Pipalayana is more or less describing the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. The Navayogendras are the personalists. So King Nimi asked his question about the different features of the absolute truth to clarify the personality of God, who is Advaya Jnana. Tam tu Upanishadam Purusham Pruchami. I am inquiring about the Supreme Person revealed in the Upanishads. In this verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says that Pipalayana is describing the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth. So when it is said that absolute truth is inaccessible by the words, Shabdopi Bodhaka Tayat Nisheda Tayatma Moolam. Then it is mentioned the absolute truth is inaccessible by the words. It means what? It means that it is not applicable in all the cases. Through material words, one cannot understand the absolute truth. Through the words which are infused with the mental speculation, one cannot understand the absolute truth. But the Supreme Truth can empower certain words and senses when he awards his mercy, and the words and the senses empowered by the Supreme Absolute Truth, that can help us to understand the Absolute Truth. So, therefore, the injunction that neither the mind nor speech can approach the Absolute Truth cannot be taken as applicable in all cases. Rather, it is a warning to those who foolishly try to understand the Absolute Truth by their speculative powers. Otherwise, there is no meaning to the Vedas only. If it cannot be understood by the words, then why do we need to study the Shastra? There is no meaning to the Shastra only. So therefore, Vedic injunctions, either positive or negative, are to be taken as realistic descriptions of the absolute truth. That is why the third Vedanta Sutra, I think Shrutestu Shabda Mulatvat. Shastra Yonitvat. Shastra Yonitvat. Shastra is the way to understand the absolute truth. Shastra is the way. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vyavastitau Nyatva Shastra Vidanoktam Karma Kartum Iharhasi. Shastra is the Pramana. Shastra is the way to understand the absolute truth. So, Shastra. So, since the Vedic injunctions are to be taken as a realistic description of absolute truth, the process of hearing and repeating Vedic knowledge can be understood as a separate process in which one's hearing and speaking power becomes spiritualized by submissive reception of the transcendental knowledge. And this process depends upon one's faith in the bona fide Guru. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata gurav tasyaite katita hyarta prakashante mahatmanah. And it is also stated by Krishna himself in the Harivamsha. Tatparam paramam brahma sarvam vibhajate jagat mamaiva tadganam tejo nyatumarhasi bharata. The supreme truth expands itself into all the sarvam vibhajate jagat, variegatedness of this universe. And Nyatum arhasi, you should know it to be mamaiva tad ganam tejaha, my own concentrated effulgence. Nyatum arhasi, you must know it, indicate that the absolute truth is to be known. But one must surrender it to the truth rather than wasting time in speculation. So, speculation is like when Hiranyaksha was fighting with Varahadev, Hiranyaksha tried to crush Varahadev by embracing Varahadev within his arms. The Prabhupada says that this is the mindset of a mental speculator who thinks that he can understand the absolute truth with his own limited mind and intelligence. Therefore, we find at the beginning of 10th canto, Brahmaji, the presiding deity of the intelligence, he understood that this problem of removing the burden of the earth is beyond my capacity. So the presiding deity of the intelligence, he understood that this is beyond my intelligence. So therefore, he decided to surrender to the supreme intelligence. So therefore, the highest peak of intelligence is that when a person recognizes the supreme intelligence and surrenders to the supreme intelligence. When a person comes to that point, he is called as a Mahatma. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pointed out that according to the authorized statements of the Vedic literature, Lord's transcendental form is understood to be Brahmamaya, or completely spiritual, with no trace of material contamination. So, when we, in statements like Nilotpaladala Shyamam, the Lord has a hue of a dark blue lotus petals. Actually, Lord is inconceivably, that way it is described in the Shastra. Still, the Lord is inconceivably merciful to his devotees, even those on the neophile platform who are trying to come to the state of love of God. So there is a beautiful purport in the 10th canto. '87th chapter, 2nd shloka. So, 87 chapter, second shloka, last section. So the transcendental intelligence and senses of the Lord's perfect devotees, they correctly perceive his purely spiritual beauty. And their realizations are echoed in the Gopal Tapani Upanishads. Comparison of Lord Krishna's eyes and body and clothing to a lotus. On the other hand, devotees on the level of sadhana who are in the process of becoming purified have only barely realized the Supreme Lord's boundless spiritual beauty. Nonetheless, by hearing scriptural passages such as this one from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, they engage in contemplating him to the best of their fledgling ability. So, although the neophyte devotees have not yet learned how to fully realize the Lord or meditate steadily on even the effulgence surrounding his body, still they take pleasure in presuming we are meditating on our Lord. And the Supreme Lord, moved by the waves of his boundless mercy, thinks these devotees are meditating on me. Sometimes neophyte devotees, sometimes beginner devotees, they may say, oh, in that kirtan, I actually went into ecstasy. Sometimes we say, or was meditating, the dream was seeing Krishna. Sometimes people may speak like that. So the neophyte devotees, they may be thinking, we are meditating on the Lord. But the Lord is so merciful that Lord thinks that, oh, these devotees are meditating on me. And when their devotion matures, he draws them to his feet to engage in his intimate service. So the same point is actually explained in this section of the purport. Still, the Lord is inconceivably merciful to his devotees, even those on the neophyte platform who are trying to come to the state of prema. Therefore, the Lord gradually purifies the senses of a conditioned soul who is trying to understand him. And eventually, the Lord appears before such a rectified servitor. I am reading from the present verse purport, 11.3.36. The same section is mentioned in the 10.87.2. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that in the beginning, being conditioned by previous materialistic activities, a devotee meditating on the Lord may base his meditation on his experience of material forms and colors within the world. But the Lord's transcendental form has nothing to do with the material forms and colors. But since the object of this meditation is Krishna, such meditation will eventually be transformed into transcendental experience. So therefore, the transcendental knowledge depends not on material logic, but on the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the Lord is pleased by a devotee's sincere attempt, then the Lord can immediately circumvent all the so-called technicalities of material logic and Vedic injunctions, reveal himself to the pure devotee. Or what Prabhupada says in the purport. For devotees sincere, serious, and without any ulterior motives, then Krishna will reveal himself to him. So, the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has pointed out that knowledge acquired through the interaction of the material senses with the modes of nature is merely hypothetical and not factual. Empiric knowledge deals with the ephemeral experience of the sense objects generated by material nature. So, there are so many people based on the bodily identity, so much of wars, conflicts, they go on. So, material language is used to designate temporary objects. But this type of language and experience is useless for approaching the absolute truth. But we should not foolishly try to use materially concocted language to include the supreme absolute truth, to include the supreme personality of Godhead as an object of the material world. So therefore, many places in the Shastra, this point is explained that how the Lord is he is self-manifest or self-manifested, Atma Prakasha or Swadrik, Swayam Jyotir, Tvamekam Atma, what that was? Satya Swayam Jyotir Anantamadya. So Swayam Jyotir, one who is self-revealed, one who is self-manifest. So just like to get knowledge of the different objects of this world, we need the help of a tube light or a sunlight. But to get knowledge of the sunlight or a tube light, you don't need some other source of light. So this is just a material example to understand. So the Lord is self-manifest. So therefore, Atashri Krishna Namadi, that is mentioned. So if one surrenders to the Lord, taking shelter at his feet, one's spiritualized senses gradually become empowered to perceive the Lord. So Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur quotes this shloka, Naisham matis tavad urukramangrim Spirshat yanarto pagamo yadartaha Mahiyasham pada rajobhishekam Nishkinchananam na vrinita yavat. Unless a person smears one's body with the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees, one cannot become Krishna conscious. One cannot be. So Pippalayana, although Pippalayana is expressing that absolute truth cannot be approached by the material senses. That is the theme of the shloka. But he himself is describing the absolute truth. If we take this statement absolutely, the first thing you should do is that you stop speaking actually. Like he's trying to describe the absolute truth by saying that absolute truth cannot be described using the material senses. But this negation statement, it has a certain limit actually. It has a limit. So although he is saying that absolute truth cannot be approached with material senses, the sage himself is describing the absolute truth with the transcendental senses. And the absolute truth cannot be understood with the ears, then Nimi Maharaj should stop hearing. But Nimi Maharaj is hearing the absolute truth, understanding the absolute truth with his transcendental ears, because he has surrendered at the lotus feet of a pure devotees. Therefore, one should not foolishly try to understand this verse out of the context in an impersonal way. Because in the Mayavad tradition, they say even ultimately we have to reject the Vedas also. There is a Vedas, it's like they may perform deity worship or Harinam Sankirtan or scriptures, or they use the scriptures. But in the ultimate issue, then all these things become meaningless. Ultimately, you have to reject that also. So, therefore, one should not foolishly try to understand this verse in an impersonal way, but should follow the example of King Nemi, who was trying to understand how the Supreme Lord is ultimately the source of everything. Let me see if there are some additional points in Vishnu Chakotipa's purport. So Nemi Maharaj, the Pippalayana, is describing the absolute truth in 4 verses, starting from this shloka, 36, 37, 38, 39. mind cannot make the understand the absolute truth, what to speak of the other senses. So Shruti says, know that Brahman, which cannot be expressed by the words and by which the words arise. Yeah, I think almost all the points are covered. If Shruti does not describe the Brahman, then why do you say that the scriptures designate the Brahman Arthoktam in this verse? So without the existence of the Brahman, statements of negation like Atataha Adesho Neti Neti, here is the teaching. Astulam Ananu, it is not big and it is not small. Without the existence of the Brahman, all these negative statements, they have no meaning. So the negative statements basically help us to understand the absolute truth from all the material objects and experiences we have in this world. To distinguish the absolute truth from all our material experiences. He does not have a material form, he does not have a material eyes. So Hari Vamsha is quoted. Again. Zoom has gone. So Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Koti Shvashesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Binnam. I worship the Supreme Lord Govinda, whose powerful form radiates an effulgence known as the unlimited, undifferentiated, all-encompassing Brahman, which is completely distinct from the powers displayed in the unlimited planets throughout the billions of universes. If Brahman is the effulgence of Bhagavan's body, then why can it not become the object of the mind or senses? This light does not arise from matter, it arises from the form of eternity, knowledge and bliss, which is beyond matter. So words and mind are material. How can that light be object of the material words and mind? So, but then we have verses like Shravanad, Kirtanad, Dhyanad, Puyante Antavasayinah. Even the outcasts are purified by hearing and chanting. Though the body of the Lord is spiritual, but by the Lord's Kripa Shakti, which is inconceivable, this form becomes visible in the material world. That form is described by the words such as blue like the petal of a blue lotus, etc. So next shloka.
Can we ask question?
Yes, Lord.
This we have heard also in the prayers of Veda personified. There also some discussion was done that the Brahman cannot be understood by the words, even of the words of the scripture. So we heard that there are two kind of scripture: transcendental scriptures and material scriptures also. So like Gopal Tapani Upanishad, so this is a transcendental literature. So which has the transcendental words to reveal the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now here the description what is happening. So somewhere it is said that even Shastras cannot reveal that Brahman, cannot speak about that Brahman. And somewhere it is said that why such statements are spoken, because otherwise there is no meaning of Shastras. So here one is to just emphasize, you are saying that you cannot understand through speculation, but where is such a speculation given in the Shastras? When it is saying that Shastra also cannot mention, then is Shastra speculating about the Lord? The question is this. Is Shastra speculating, or there is a difference like transcendental scriptures and material scriptures? So it is speaking about the material scriptures.
No. the emphasis is that when it is mentioned that in the Shastras, there are direct devotional scriptures are there, and there are other scriptures which deal with the three modes of nature, which will also contain some aspect of direct description of Bhagavan. When it is mentioned that even the Shastras, even the like Shabdopi Bodhaka Nishedayatma Moolam, not even the authoritative language of the Vedas can perfectly describe the supreme truth, since the Vedas themselves disclaim the possibility that the Lord truth can be expressed by the words. So when it says that, mainly what is being emphasized is that you cannot understand the absolute truth with a mental speculative attitude. Even if suppose devotional scriptures are there in front of one, but if the speculative attitude is there, one cannot understand the absolute truth even with the devotional scriptures. It's emphasizing the mood of surrender, submission. Devotional scriptures are there, but still there are people who have written commentaries on the Gita. Gita is a direct Bhakti scripture, but there are people who have written a commentary on the Gita in by some people have given a commentary by giving a political twist during the freedom movement. Some people have given a commentary in a more impersonal way. So even if it is devotional scripture, with the devotional scripture we can understand, but even with the devotional scripture, the attitude of I can understand with my capacity, that with that attitude one cannot understand.
So,
That's what I-
yes, so Prabhuji, can we take in this way, like the scriptures are saying to some extent, and then we need devotional attitude. So from both the side, scripture are explaining, and we need devotional aspect to understand. Means both have to be, like we cannot understand from anything other than scripture.
Hmm.
So we have to take the scriptures, and also we should have devotional attitude to understand.
Yes, both are
So in this way we can understand.
correct. Shastra Yonitvat, only through the Shastra we can understand, and even that Shastra has to be approached the right attitude. That is why we read in the Bhagavad Gita introduction, Prabhupada says that at least approach the Gita with a theoretical understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvatah. There are people who may be able to understand who may be able to analyze the Shastra in a very expert way, using because of the knowledge of the Sanskrit language. But Prabhupada says in one purport in second canto, simply by being a grammarian, one cannot understand Bhagavatam. That is it. One, what is it? 1 ounce of faith is better than tons of faithlessness. Something like that he says. Another purpose, second canto, 6th chapter. So that attitude is emphasized.
Wanting to clarify, not minimizing the position of guru or gurus in between the Lord and the living entity. However, trying to understand the glory of Lord. So we see that holy name can act because it's non-different than Lord, as it acted in case of Ajamil. Similarly, when we see scriptures, so there are scriptures and there is Bhagavatam. And there is difference in them. Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna. So is it that Bhagavatam also can act like a light? You don't need a person to show that. If someone is in right disposition, then will it show light. And of course, with grammarian, that is very clear. And Bhagavat Padogiya Bhagavata Sthane. Mahaprabhu or Swarup Damodar is saying that. So that is well accepted. But as a principle, I want to understand that this is not just a scripture, this is Krishna. So is it has the capacity of revealing itself if one is approaching in a right spirit?
No, every scripture, specifically here Bhagavatam, it is mentioning the importance of learning from a person. So when a person is even sincerely approaching Bhagavatam, then he'll definitely be inspired to learn from a person, because that comes in the very beginning. Narada, although he spoke Bhagavatam, he only inspired Vyasadeva to write Bhagavatam. He was hearing from Shukadeva Goswami. So Bhagavatam reveals that person to approach another person. The same way, when a person chants the holy name sincerely, he will be inspired to take shelter of some person guru. Therefore, Name Ruchi, Jive Daya, Vaishnava Seva, they are inseparable attitudes actually. The Name Ruchi will lead to Jive Daya, Vaishnava Seva, or it will lead to accepting a guru. It will lead to Jive Daya.
Acting means without that also, because it is
Yes,
it will guide him to take shelter of Guru,
Huh.
which is the next step actually. So it is acting in its, but this may not happen to other scriptures.
About the Bhagavatam, it is not, holy name it is definitely mentioned. Holy name does not depend on Diksha. It's a different, direct statement is there. Bhagavatam, whether there's such a statement is there, at least I have not heard that actually. Yes.
Prabhuji, when it is said, Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deva tatha guru, tasyave kathita hai arthat prakasante mahatmana. Here, does it mean it reveals the conclusion of a scripture, or it reveals the all intricacies of scriptures and everything, like with proper text one person remembers, or he has not read also such verses from scripture, but he remembers. Of how he remembers, we do not know. Or does it mean he only knows the conclusion because he have heard from Guru who has so much faith? Or he remembers the whole Vedic devotional scriptures, everything?
Conclusion, essence as such. Essence. See, some of the details of this one, but there can be possible some extraordinary example, somebody may know the details also. Essentially, the conclusion is revealed. The details of, suppose, a grammatical understanding of different this one. That can also be possible by Krishna's extraordinary mercy, but generally that such kind of is not seen. That's not seen so much. But the conclusion is of the Shastra is revealed when a person has a faith in Guru and Krishna.
So when he has to know the details, he has to study himself.
He has to study from a Guru actually. You had asked that day the question, I wanted to show about the Shabde Parecha Nishnatam. So there is a say traditional way of understanding a shloka. So there is a shloka. Padacheda padartoktir vigraho vakya yojana akshepasya samadhanam vyakyanam panchalakshanam. So any explanation of a shloka or a passage, it has 5 steps. First one is supposed to do the padacheda. And the Padacheda is splitting the words after removing the Sandhi. Padarthokti, then explaining the meaning of each and every word. And then Vigraha, explaining the grammatical breakdown of the difficult terms. Certain difficult terms are there. They explain the grammatical breakdown of the Prakriti Pratyaya. Then Vakya Yojana, which is also called as Anvaya, rearranging the words in the form of a meaningful sentence. So these first 4 steps, to a great extent, they can be done even by a person, even by one on one's own. But the 5th step, Akshepasya Samadhanam, the resolution of the various doubts and the correction of the various errors that the disciple might have made while understanding the Shastra. That is, that can be done only by with the help of a person guru. The resolution of the various doubts. And also the person is required for the practical application of the knowledge in the current setting or the current situation. Suppose, what do we do with the artificial intelligence or chat GPT, or how to, should we use it or not use it? For that, you may not have any explanation in the Shastra. You have to consult the person. So the essence of the Shastra is revealed to a person who has faith in the Guru and Krishna. Some of the details means I am talking about these Padacheda, Padarthokti, Vigraha, Vakya Yojana. So these things may not be.
Prabhuji, then where does the mood and mission comes, Prabhuji?
Mood and mission. Mood and mission comes as more part of the essence only. Essence and the application of the essence.
Like Shastras, they speak about very elaborate description about so many statements. Now, but Guru gives the mood and mission. Like he has a certain mood that you have to do this only, this only. So this is the main life and soul for a disciple, basically, because how much he can read scriptures and understand what I have to do. Like Rupa Goswami Pad has given 64 principles. Now Guru may say you do this principle only in your life. You follow this principle very strictly, like chanting holy name is there, or reading Bhagavatam, or serving Vaishnava. So he may choose one of them or tell you do this thing first. So this is also basically the contribution of Guru.
Mood and mission, yeah, generally that's why the normal processes, one has a more personal connection with the Guru. In the current times, we may not have the personal connection with the Diksha Guru. So also another thing is that there are certain general instructions of the Guru. He has, for example, if we take Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he said that all my instructions in my classes are my personal instructions to the disciples, like that is mentioned. Whatever instructions I have given in the classes, they are my personal instructions for all the disciples. So in that sense, even if we don't get a personal time to interact with this one, with the Guru, but the personal instructions are there for everyone in the classes. So general mood and mission, humility, servant to the servant, taking shelter of hearing and chanting. So these things are there, being an instrument in Prabhupada's mission. So these general principles are there for everyone. And within that, we can find our own, we can find our own mission. Our own mission means the way we want to serve. Within that broader principles, we can take out according to our liking and according to our nature. We can find particular way of serving within that general this one. When we say Prabhupada has built a house for the whole world to live, what does it mean? It doesn't mean a physical house. It means that Prabhupada has given such a broad vision that everybody from different background, they can contribute in different ways in Prabhupada's mission. So those common principles are there, and within that we choose to serve in a particular project or particular way. That's how I understand.
So, Prabhuji, you are just saying that mood and mission is institutional, and generally, when disciple used to be close with Guru, they used to get personal instructions.
Mood and mission is also given to the classes. Mood and mission. Like, some specific personal instruction is given on a particular project or something in a when we are close to the person. Personally interacting and serving, definitely it is helpful when we meet a elevated person, getting a personal experience of seeing how they operate, how they function. That definitely helps. That's that one of the traditional ways there. But then in the current time, that opportunity with the Diksha Guru is not so much possible. So one can accept maybe take shiksha from different people who are generally approved by the Diksha Guru, or one in the Shastras also says 11th canto, we will see in the later. Krishna tells to Uddhava that one learns from different gurus, different people. There's one Diksha Guru and learn from different Shiksha Guru. And by that one becomes mature. Within the broad general principles, common principles which are common for everyone, Name Ruchi, Jive Daya, Vaishnava Seva, these things are there. I don't know whether I can fully satisfy you, but let's try to explain.
Yes, okay, Prabhuji.
Only by bhakti we can understand Krishna. Other process, impersonalism and everything cannot be understood completely.
Other process?
Like impersonal perspective and everything cannot be understood completely.
Yeah, only by bhakti one can understand the absolute truth completely.
Other than bhakti,
to the path of jnana marga or the ashtanga yoga marga, one can get some particular aspect of the absolute truth.
Supreme truth cannot be explained.
They can perceive only the, say, impersonal aspect of the absolute truth or the Paramatma aspect of the absolute truth. Just like the example given is, we can understand the milk completely with the help of the mind, which is of course connected to the other senses. But with the help of only that one individual sense, I can only understand milk as something white. Ear will understand milk as something fragrant. Tongue will understand the milk as something tasty. But the mind will understand the milk as something, it is milk which is white in color, which is fragrant, which is having a sweet taste, which has a cooling sensation. The mind will understand the complete. Okay. So next shloka. Sattvam rajastamayati trivirde kamadau. Sutram mahanahamiti pravadanti jivam. Jnana kriyartha palarupatayoru shakti. Brahmaiva bhati sad asachyatayo param yat.
Originally, one, the absolute Brahman, comes to be known as threefold, manifesting itself as the three modes of material nature goodness, passion, and ignorance. Brahman further expands its potency, and thus the power to act and the power of consciousness becomes manifest, along with the false ego, which covers the identity of the conditioned living being. Thus, by expansion of the multipotencies of the Absolute, the demigods, as the embodiment of the knowledge, becomes manifest, along with the material senses, their objects, and the results of material activity, namely happiness and distress. In this way, the manifestation of the material world takes place as a subtle cause, and as a material effective visible in the appearance of gross material objects. Brahman, which is the source of all subtle and gross manifestation, is simultaneously transcendental to them, being absolute.
So, this shloka explains how the whole material world is an emanation from Brahman. So, the one sense of creation is explained briefly also. The one absolute truth, the one Brahman, Ekam, the one Brahman, it shines as the Maya with Sattvaguna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. And that one absolute truth, it manifests as the Sutra, Mahatattva, and as the Ahankara, and as the powerful energies by taking the form of the Devatas, Jnana Kriyartha Palarupa Tayoru Shakti, the form of Devatas, senses, sense objects, and the material qualities. The Supreme Brahman is the cause of all the gross effects and the subtle causes. Brahmaiva Bhati Sad Asat. Sat Asat means gross and subtle. Tayo Paramyat. So, also we see the word Jnana Kriyartha Palarupa Taya Uru Shakti. Uru Shakti, by expansion of the multi-potencies of the Absolute Truth, the demigods, the material senses, their objects, the results of material activity, phala, that is happiness and distress, all these things become manifest. In this way, the manifestation of the material world takes place as the subtle cause and as a gross effect visible in the appearance of the gross material objects. So, Tayoho Paramyat. Tayoho Paramyat, Brahman, which is the source of all these things, is simultaneously transcendental to them, being absolute. Tayoho Paramyat, that is an important word. So, if we see here, the previous verse, Pippalaina described the absolute truth as being beyond the range of the material sense perception, mental speculation. Atma Moolam Arthoktam Aga Yadrite Na Nisheda Siddhi. He also said that the negative injunctions indirectly indicate the existence of the absolute truth. But this absolute truth can be appreciated by the correct means. Now, in the present verse, it is clearly described that the absolute truth possesses innumerable potencies. Uru Shakti, Brahmaiva Bhati. This is a very important concept. One of the key difference between the Advaitavada. Advaitavada does not recognize the Shakti of the absolute truth. But Vaishnava philosophy recognizes the absolute truth in three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahman is that feature of the absolute truth without the energies, without the qualities. Paramatma is that feature of the absolute truth with some partial qualities and energies. Bhagavan is that absolute truth who has unlimited qualities and unlimited energies. So by the expansion of the absolute truth, the gross and subtle features of the material world become manifest. Sridhar Swami says, Karyam Karanad Bhinnam na bhavati, or Shaktir Shaktimatam Abedaha. The effect is non-different from the cause. The effect is non-different from the cause, but the cause is different from the effect. That is why the word says that Tayo Param Yat. Brahman is simultaneously transcendental to them. The effect is dependent on the cause, but the cause is independent of the effect. Janmadyase yatonvayat itaratas charte shabhignya swarat. So this is also called as a Satkaryavada. So although the absolute truth, since the absolute is eternal existence, this material world being the potency of the absolute truth must also be accepted as real. So we see the Mayavad philosophy says that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. But the Vaishnava philosophy says that this world cannot be Mithya because it is created by the absolute truth. It has to be real, but thinking that real material world, thinking that material world to be permanent, which is temporary in nature, that is the Mithya part. So, Mithya, Mayavada, it can also be called as Mithyavada. It means to consider something as a false when something is real. So, if we see the traditional Mayavada is that the qualities, activities, pastimes of the absolute truth, they are all transcendental, but to consider them as made of Sattva Guna, to be made of Mithya, that is a Mayavad. Or this material world is real but temporary, but to consider the material world itself as false, that is a Mayavad. But if we see even in the slide digression, but the topic is the Ritvik philosophy also, it has a tinge of Mayavad actually. This element of Mayavad. Because when we see in Prabhupada's Pranati mantra, what do we say? Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Prabhupada went to destroy the Nirvisheshavad and the Shunyavad. Nirvisheshavad means what? Nirvisheshavad is those who say that the Visheshanas of the Bhagavan are actually false. That is the Nirvisheshavad. Visheshanas of the Bhagavan are false. We describe a person generally using the Visheshanas. So the Visheshana of the Bhagavan, one of the Visheshana of Bhagavan is this aspect of compassion. And one of the way by which that compassion of the Bhagavan is manifest is through the system of Guru Shishya Parampara. That is the way, one of the way the Bhagavan's compassion is manifest. So when somebody says that, when somebody rejects that Guru Shishya Parampara, the system of living Guru Shishya Parampara, that means he is actually, in one sense, he is rejecting one particular Visheshana of the Bhagavan, which is manifest in a particular way. So, which is nothing but is basically a Mayavad. We're not worshipping Krishna, worshipping different, hearing, chanting, Bhagavatam, all other things are going on. But this aspect of Kripa of the Bhagavan, which is manifest through the Guru Shishya Parampara, when you deny that, they're actually partly subscribing to the Nirvisheshavad, which is, while apparently being loyal to Prabhupada, you are actually going against the very purpose of Prabhupada to destroy the Nirvisheshavad, but you are actually subscribing to the Prabhupada went to destroy the Nirvisheshavad, but you are subscribing to the Nirvisheshavad by indirectly saying that this Visheshana of Bhagavan, that is Kripa of Bhagavan manifested Guru Shishya Parampara, is not real. So Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. So
Prabhuji,
material world,
Prabhuji, one question can I ask? Prabhuji, in this regards only means the Prabhupada Pranati that is there, when we are saying that we are, we are personalist. But in one of the lectures in Vrindavan, I had heard that Maharaj was speaking actually that many times we are also impersonal with Bhagwan. We are not personal with Bhagwan. We don't consider Bhagwan to be, in the holy name, or we don't, consider Bhagwan to be in the deity form. Ruji, how can I understand this? That, because I also want to check on myself whether I'm a personalist or an impersonal, or I am an impersonalist in the garb of a personalist. So if you can help me, Prabhuji.
see, sometimes it may be possible we may have a personal philosophy, but one can have an impersonal dealing actually. Sometimes we have also observed somebody may have impersonal philosophy, but they have a personal dealing, like they follow even the system of observed compared to even ISKCON, some other people who are in Advaita Sampradaya, the system of the way they follow their guru or the traditional practices, sometimes they are better than us actually. So so sometimes we may have a personal philosophy, but in the vyavahara we can be affected by the impersonalism, the dealings. So that one may have to correct. We have to correct. That is why the association, somebody, guidance of somebody will be required. Somebody who knows.
Prabhuji, we heard one statement that even ISKCON is also what is different from Ritvik. Because ISKCON, many young people are becoming gurus, and then after some time they will push behind the Prabhupada, like Ramanujacharya Sampradaya. In Ramanujacharya Sampradaya, what is the value of Ramanuja? Now the recent gurus are more prominent. So in ISKCON will also become, in one sense, like here, Ritvik people, means they are keeping Prabhupada right now because of the present leader there. After some time, the local people will become gurus. Maybe it's some kind of means projection of thought. So then it is said that even ISKCON will also happen same, like Prabhupada will go behind and new gurus will take in front. So is it this a right conclusion to understand, means even ISKCON and Ritvikism going to the same way, means the Prabhupada, so sending Prabhupada back, is it natural, like in Ramanujacharya Sampradaya it happened, and recent living gurus they will become prominent, or it should not happen? How is it? How to understand? Or is it also a Mayavad that, oh no, Prabhupada should always be in front? So how to understand this thing? Can you just explain?
Yeah, Prabhupada's position is definitely unique as the founder Acharya. But one need not unnecessarily fear as long as we are keeping the Shastra, Prabhupada and the previous Acharyas. When a person is repeating the Shastra, when a person is repeating the previous Acharya's teachings, so why should one unnecessarily fear? Suppose if this is not being done, repeating the Shastra, being propagating the Prabhupada's teaching, previous Acharya's teachings, then it may be possible It can turn into a personality cult, or it can go into more commercial, this one. But when we follow the teachings, propagating the holy name, propagating this one, then one need not fear. So there may be certain, in ISKCON, on a practical level, not on a philosophy, on a practical level, when there is a, suppose, global guru system is there. On a practical level, it is like a Ritvik system, because there is no, very few people have a personal connection with their guru. So in that sense, the Ritvik system, they say, okay, you are all disciples of Prabhupada. So in ISKCON, very few people have personal connection with the guru, with the Diksha guru. So in that sense, there is some resemblance of Ritvik system. So therefore, so the important part is the Shiksha should become more prominent. So our Sampradaya is a Shiksha Parampara more than the Diksha Parampara. Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru and Paramatma, they are non-different. So Shiksha Guru is on the same level as the Diksha Guru. That's what the Chaitanya Charitamrita Kaviraj Goswami says in the shloka. So sometimes that Shiksha is little under-emphasized. So when the Diksha is only emphasized, and practically we don't have access to the Diksha Guru. Sometimes people meet the Diksha Guru only once on the day of Diksha. There are times, okay, they don't meet. So then, of course, we have created a system of counselor system, this thing. Some places such kind of systems may not be there, or sometimes such systems can be little misused. So in that sense, there may be need of improvement. It has to be, it's a different, I think, qualified devotees should come together to improve the system. I cannot, but a few thoughts which came to my mind, I shared. So the material world is not false in the imaginary sense of the Buddhists and Mayavadis. And then, so for another example is given. Suppose a magician is performing a trick. So he may be bringing the rabbit out of a hat. So the appearance of rabbit coming out of the hat, that is an illusion. But rat and rabbit and the hat, they themselves are not illusion, they are real. So similarly, to think when the living entity identifies himself with the bodily designation, that is an illusion. Considering the body to be eternal, that is an illusion. Considering the material world to be eternal, that is an illusion. So, if one artificially tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy by declaring that there is no illusory potency, that the world is false, he merely falls into another illusion created by Maya to keep him in the ignorance. So that is why Krishna says in the Gita, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mam Upashrita Bhagavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Madbhava Magata. One has to go beyond the Raga, Dvesha and Bhaya. So the materialists, they consider only the material world to be the only reality. And therefore they absorbed in enjoying this world. Therefore they have a raga or attachment towards the material world. And the impersonalists, they consider that spiritual world is the only reality. The impersonal Brahman is the only reality. This world is unreal. This world is unreal. So therefore, they have a fear of taking a personal form, because in this world they have experienced so much of problems with a personal form. So they don't want to think, they don't want to have a personal form in the spiritual realm. So they have a fear of a personal form. So they have a fear. And then there is the Voidists or the Buddhists. They think that spiritual world is also unreal, material world is also unreal. Everything is basically unreal. There's nothing real. सब कुछ शून्य है. It is like the only question to be asked is that when to commit suicide, today or tomorrow. So, because everything is, they don't have any purpose in their life actually. So they are frustrated with everything. So they have a anger arising from frustration. So one has to go beyond all these three: raga, and bhaya and krodha. So beyond that, the right understanding is that the spiritual world is real, the material world is also real, but it is temporary. The material world is a real energy of the Supreme Lord. Can be used in the it can be used in the service of the Lord. So therefore, denying the illusory potency by saying the world is false is another illusion created by Maya. So unless one surrenders to the Mayesha, there is no possibility of escaping from illusion. So in this verse, the expansion of the material world from Brahman is described. Since the Brahman is one of the subordinate features of Supreme Personality of Godhead, one who understands this material world to be Brahman is freed from the tendency to exploit the material energy. So when you understand that, the description given in the shloka, the whole world is a emanation from the Brahman. What is the result of the practical result of this understanding? One must lose the tendency to exploit this world, exploit the material energy for sense gratification and mental speculation aimed at one's own satisfaction. So if the Brahman is one, Ekam, how does it manifest in innumerable varieties? That is by Uru Shakti, because he has unlimited potencies, innumerable potencies. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. So therefore, Sridhar Swami says that one should submissively hear these authorized descriptions of the absolute truth. So the tiny jiva cannot illuminate the personality of Godhead. One may argue that the sun expands its potency in the form of the rays, and it is through the illumination of those rays that we are able to see the sun. In the same way, we should be able to perceive the absolute truth by the expansion of its potency. But then we also see that from the sun only clouds come, and because of the clouds we are unable to see the sun. So therefore one can understand the existence of absolute truth by the expansion of his potencies only, not by our own effort. So power to see the sun depends on the sun rays and clear sky. We can understand the absolute truth. Power to see the sun depends on the sun rays and also the presence of the clear sky, which depends on the sun only. So I'll just quickly complete this. It got computer. Okay.
Just was thinking about one comment given by Srila Shivam Swami Maharaj. So in this context of Srila Prabhupada going back and all that, and current gurus are taking prominence. Actually, sometimes we even see that the celebrations are also very pompous than Prabhupada's celebration. Actually, so which is very appreciated because the gratitude is there. However, so what Maharaj said, he made two statements which made a lot of sense to me. That he said that actually, if we want to know Prabhupada, we have to thoroughly study his books. And if we want to go closer to Prabhupada, we have to distribute his books. So he being like well experienced in many aspects of ISKCON and establishing community, preaching, GBC, Guru, Sannyasi. So these two statements made a great impact on my thought process.
I think, yeah, thank you for sharing. Very important. Studying his books thoroughly and distributing his books. Huh. Hmm. 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 Mm. Hmm. Hmm. See, currently, from one point of view, there are so many book distribution, like the scores go in lakhs, but the one-to-one distribution is less actually. Mostly it is in Gita Dan or through donations actually. The numbers are more, so we cannot. So sometimes we get carried away with the numbers and the big pompous or elaborate celebration. Like some South India, one place there is a Janmashtami celebration. Some 10 minutes or 15 minutes, they had some drone laser show. Exactly, I don't know. They had spent some 10, 12 lakhs, 10, 15-minute celebration. So sometimes definitely such pompous, elaborate, gigantic things happen, but still that, as you mentioned, sometimes this pompous celebration of the, say, Vyas Puja or different things are a good thing. It's a gratitude is being given, but at the same time, whether it is there could be an element of sometimes cult mentality can be more there. Prabhupada also, when we see Prabhupada as a representative of the parampara, sometimes when we see in the name of giving prominence to Prabhupada, when we belittle the other previous acharyas, that is also another aspect of cult mentality actually. Definitely we read Prabhupada's books, this one. At the same time, Prabhupada encouraged devotees to read the Acharya's books also. So cult mentality can come in different ways. It can come in, so suppose Prabhupada disciples becoming more, suppose some recent disciple becoming more prominent, they are giving less importance to Prabhupada. That can be one thing. Or the cult mentality can come in another way. We belittle the importance of other previous acharyas' books and only Prabhupada's books. When we make a system, one cannot read the other, and that can also be an element of cult mentality. So there has to be a balance of Prabhupada, Shastras, the previous acharyas. So it's can be in different ways. So we are already 12:43. I think we'll take a break now, and then after 15 minutes, 1 o'clock will be meeting. We could just cover 1.5 shlokas only. Hare Krishna. So we are in page number 273. So the absolute truth is not Shakti, but energy, but Shaktiman, the possessor of innumerable potencies. So if the Brahman is one, how does he become manifest into innumerable varieties? That is by through his unlimited energies called as Uru Shakti. Yeah, this we covered this. So although in the previous verse, the later part of 273, the power of the material senses and mind was rejected, the authorized description given here informs us that one can directly perceive everything that exists to be the potency of the personality of God. Therefore, Narada Muni told Prachina Barishat, a verse is quoted from 4th canto, Atastat apavadartam bhaja sarvatmana harim pashyam tadatmakam vishwam stityutpat apyayayatah. You should always know that this cosmic manifestation is created, manifested, and annihilated by the will of the Supreme Lord. Consequently, everything this cosmic manifestation is under the control of the Lord. To be enlightened with this perfect knowledge, one should engage himself in the service of the Lord. So, bhaja sarvatmana harim, one must worship the Supreme Lord. So, and the result of devotional service is that one's mind becomes cleansed of the dirt, and thus one can not only see the Lord, but the Lord's expansions as a spiritual world, as the pure devotees, as the Paramatma, as the impersonal Brahman, and as the subsequent creation of the material world, the shadow of the kingdom of God. So by engaging in devotional service, one can see all these realities. So in the shloka, you see the word Jnana Kriyartha Phala Rupa Tayoru Shakti. Phala. Here Phala, Jiva Goswami says that Phala can also be understood to mean Purushartha Swarupam, the actual form of the goal of life. Or in other words, the transcendental form of the Lord. The living entity in its original state is not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, the infinite multicolored opulence of the kingdom of God is not different from in quality from the Lord. So the mundane concept of family is a perverted reflection of the happy situation created when the Lord is united in full spiritual opulence with his pure devotees. So therefore, the conclusion is that everything is coming from the potency of the Lord, so everything should be used in his service. The material world is a natural potency of the absolute truth. So sometimes there are certain philosophies which has a combination of atheism and theism. Something is outright atheism, we can easily identify. Sometimes there could be combination of atheism and theism. Or something like it can come in different shades. Sometimes people say we are spiritual but not religious. So there is a spiritual element, but there is also effect of the modern Western culture, like that. Spiritual, not religious, means we practice spirituality, but we are not religious, means we are not connected to a sampradaya or guru. We don't accept. So that is like the spiritual version of the live-in relation. Actually, we stay together, but we are not married. We are spiritual, but we don't want a commitment of a guru or a sampradaya. So similarly, there can be some combination of atheism and theism. So they say that God has created this world, but now he is not in control of the world. Devil is controlling this world, and now there is a fight going on between God and the devil. So that kind of it's a combination of atheism and theism. God is the creator but not the controller. Or the material activities are controlled by an independent devil, and the God is struggling with such a devil. Because he is not in control, therefore there are so many problems in this world. So such gross ignorance of the omnipotent status of the personality of Godhead can be removed by understanding the purport of this verse. So Bhagavan is omnipotent, Uru Shakti. So how can he not be in control? So because of not understanding that he is omnipotent, he is Shaktiman, he has unlimited potencies. Therefore, people come up with such theories. So everything that exists is an insignificant spark of the potency. Atava bahunaitena kimnyatena tavarjuna. So therefore, if one becomes sane and understands that one's well-wishing friend Krishna is the ultimate source, one attains the immediate peace. Nyatva mam shanti mrichati. Fear and illusion arise when one foolishly thinks that even one atom of the creation is not the controlled potency of the personality of God. Ritertam yat praliyeta, the second verse of Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Ritertam yat praliyeta, nat pratiyeta chatmani.
Tadvidyatmano maya yatha bhaso yatha tamo.
So when you think that something is different from the Lord, something is different from the potency of the Lord, that is Maya. Because of that, the fear arises. Bayam dvitiya abhiniveshatasyat ishad apetasya. Ishad apetasya, that is the cause. And because of that, bayam and absorption in something secondary, asmriti, viparyaya, all these things come. So declaring so both types of atheism, seeing one type of atheism is basically the materialism. Material world is supposed to be enjoyed by me. I have to lord it over matter. Another type of atheism is the material world itself is unreal. So both types are futile attempts to avoid one's eternal subordination to the Supreme Personality of God. So Jiva Goswami has quoted a verse from Vishnu Purana where Maitreya Rishi is asking Parashara, Nirgunasya prameyasya shuddhasyap yamalatmanah katham sargadi kartritvam brahmano kyupagamyate. How are we to understand that Brahman, the Supreme Soul, is the executor of the creation, maintenance and destruction, even though it is devoid of qualities, immeasurable, unembodied and free from any fault? In reply, Parashara stated, Shaktaya sarva bhavanam achintya jnana gochara yatoto brahmanastastu sargadya bhava shaktayah bhavanti tapatam shreshta pavakasya yatoshnata. Mere logic cannot explain how even material objects expand their potency. So we see very beautiful point. Even by logic, we cannot understand even how material objects expand their potency. I say, see, elaborate explanation. But through logic, we cannot understand, we cannot explain, we cannot give a logical explanation for what is the compulsion for a seed to get transformed into a tree. Seed becoming a tree, we cannot give a complete logical explanation for seed becoming a tree. There is no compulsion for seed has to become a tree. You cannot give a logical explanation. These things can be understood by mature observation. The absolute truth expands its potency in creation, maintenance and annihilation of the material world, just as fire expands its potency of heat. Bhavanti tapatam shreshta pavakasya toshnata. So Jiva Goswami says that one cannot understand through logic how a gem exerts its Shakti. Sometimes certain treatments are also done by putting certain gem in the particular parts of the body. You cannot give a logical explanation for mantra acting in a particular way. So, so there is no logical necessity of a seed growing into a tree. One can say that, can come up with some explanation, genetic code, DNA, like that. One can give some, may try to cook up something. But there is no logical necessity for the existence of the seed, nor for the seeds expanding itself into a gigantic tree. So after the manifestation of the wonderful material nature, the foolish material scientist traces out the expansion of the seed's potency in an apparently logical sequence of the events. But there is nothing within the realm of so-called pure logic that dictates that a seed should expand into a tree. So similarly, mantras also have certain innate potencies. You cannot give a logical explanation for the action of a mantra. So similarly, just like the seed has an innate potency, mantra has an innate potency, gem has an innate potency, the absolute truth has got innate potencies, Uru Shakti. So therefore, he has a natural quality of expanding itself into material and spiritual world in innumerable varieties. So a person who purifies his consciousness by devotional service can scientifically observe the expansion of the absolute truth as described above. Just as one who is blind, one who is not blind can observe the expansion of a seed into a tree. So one must purify his vision. That purification of the vision happens either by the ears or by the eyes.
Guruji,
Huh.
here innate means there is a natural tendency in some object to show, and then logic is developed upon those natural tendency. Whether logic comes first or natural tendency comes first. Like, so here what we are discussing, that somebody has innate tendency, and then we are trying to find out through the logic, it happens in this way, it happens in this way, in this, but it is a natural thing for it. Like that you are saying?
See, after we have observed something, we are trying to give a logical explanation. But can you give a logical explanation why this? What is the necessity for a seed to become a tree? Why the seed should become a tree? What is the logical explanation? You cannot give a logical explanation. Basically, the seed has an innate potency, it becomes a tree. There is no logical necessity for a seed to become a tree. There is no logical necessity for a gem to act in a particular way. The only explanation you can give is that it has an innate potency. So the point is, simply by logic, we cannot explain how even the material objects expand their potency. What is the necessity for a, suppose when you put a brinjal seed, it has to become a brinjal. Through logic, you cannot say it has an innate potency that therefore it is becoming a brinjal plant.
Prabhuji, can you give some example, Prabhuji, in which in opposite way, like where logic is there and it may not be natural?
Logic is there
And it may not be innate.
example, the same.
Now, I am just trying to understand that how logic should not be applied to the innate quality because it's innate. Like sometimes Prabhupada says that some like
Achintya aspects of the Supreme Lord. Krishna is all pervading, at the same time he has a limited form.
Like Prabhupada's proof sometimes says that a father sees many children playing and if some danger comes, he will protect his son. It's logical. It's natural for him. It's not partiality.
Hmm.
He does not say logical, but he says natural.
Hmm.
So it's natural for him to protect. It's not a partiality.
Hmm.
But I'm not finding any example for logical but not innate.
So logic is useful, but logic has its own limits. Some things we may try to attempt to give a logical explanation, but some things, even in the material world, we cannot give a logical explanation for. Generally, when you suppose, for example, when you condense something, the density of that should increase. But the water, when you condense, the density increases, but below 4 degrees Celsius, the density decreases. That is the anomalous property of the water. It's inconceivable. Square root of -1 does not exist. But a big field of mathematics, complex algebra, it is starting with that first step. Square root. I equal to -1. A point does not have a dimension, but the line, which is a combination of points, has a dimension. So like that, many things which are inconceivable in this world. So the Vedic knowledge is Shabda Brahma, transcendental potency in the form of sound vibration. So one can observe the functions of the absolute truth through submissive hearing of the transcendental sound, Shastra Chakshu. So then further, when you accept that is you have to accept the Achintya Shakti.
But that
Achintya
achintya
Shakti.
also can be explained by the Lord, or
That spiritual logic is that when you understand that this is beyond the logic. That is called as transcendental logic. This goes beyond the limits of the material logic.
material logic.
Just like I explained, cause and effect. Cause and effect. Everything we have experienced of everything in this world, cause and effect, cause and effect. Some things which has no cause. So because that is difficult to conceive, so sometimes and sometimes the acharyas give a cause for it actually. So that something which is without a cause, you are going into the realm of achintya actually. It's inconceivable to the mind. So just as it is understood from the above discussion, so Shvetasutra Upanishad is quoted, Mayam tu prakritim vidyan mayinam tu maheshwaram. Understand that Maya is a material energy, whereas the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Lord of Maya. So, so just as it is understood from the above discussion that so this particular shloka essentially says that the material world is an emanation from the Brahman. Just like the material world is the emanation from the Brahman, that Brahman is an emanation of Krishna, Bhagavan, which is explained in the Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham, and which is also confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato, Jagadanda Koti, Koti Shvashesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Binnam. So Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur says that the impersonal Brahman there is neither transcendental activity nor the supreme purushartha, supreme benefit of life, which is the prema. So therefore, if a person is prematurely dazzled by the Brahman effulgence or the nature of Brahman, and if he does not go ahead to know the personality of Godhead, then there is no possibility of actually understanding one's eternal identity. One cannot come to the point of the ultimate Purushartha. So therefore, he is summarizing this with a shloka from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yadadvaitam Brahmopanishadi tadapyasya tanubha ya atmantar yami purusha iti syoshyam savibhavah षडैश्वर्यै पूर्णो य इह भगवान् सस्वयमयम् न चैतन्यात् कृष्णात् जगति परतत्त्वं परमिह. Our Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the source of Brahman and Paramatma. That Bhagavan who is filled with Shad Aishwarya, who is the source of Brahman and Paramatma, that Bhagavan is non-different from Lord Chaitanya. Na Chaitanyad Krishnad Jagati Paratattvam Paramiha. So next shloka. So this shloka. We'll go to the next shloka. 38 and 39. 38. Natma jajana na parishyati naidate sau nakshiyate savanavid vyabhicharinam hi sarvatra shashvadanapayupalabdhi matram प्राणो यतेन्द्रिय बलेन विकल्पितं सत्.
Brahman, the eternal soul, was never born and will never die, nor does it grow or decay. The spirit soul is actually the knower of the youth, middle age, and death of this material body. Thus, the soul can be understood to be pure consciousness, existing everywhere at all times and never being destroyed, just as the life air within the body. Although one becomes manifest as many in contact with the various material senses, the one soul appears to assume various material designations in contact with the material body.
So 38 and 39, in these two shlokas, he talks about the Atma actually. If we see what is the question of Nimi Maharaj? The question of Nimi Maharaj is that please explain the transcendental position of Narayana, who is known as Brahman and Paramatma. So he has explained that, he has been explaining that only last few shlokas. But 38 and 39 is describing is going to describe about the Atma. He is describing the Atma. The question is asked about is about the Narayana, who is known as Brahman and Paramatma, but now he is suddenly describing about the Atma. So these two shlokas are also quoted by Jiva Goswami in the Tattva Sandarbha, Anucheda 53 and 54. 53, 38 shloka is quoted. 54, 39th shloka is quoted. So he explains that, so there are two ways of knowing the absolute truth. One is called as Vyashti, another is called as Samashti. So Vyashti means what? You study the individual living entity By that you understand the nature of the absolute truth. Because the individual living entity is the amsha of the absolute truth. The simple example, suppose you take 5 ml blood from a person to study uh, the nature of the person's body, what sugar level or cholesterol level. We don't have to take out all the 5 ml blood, or you want to take, you want to check the water contamination in a building. You take some 10 ml water from the tank and then you analyze that water. So that is like Vyashti, you understand the individual living entity and through that you understand the absolute truth. Samashti is that you try to understand the universe and through the universe you try to understand the absolute truth. So this method of Samashti is the 10 topics of the Bhagavatam. The first 9 topics of the Bhagavatam are in relation to the universe. Atra sargo visargascha sthanam poshana mutayah manvantara ishanukata nirodho muktirashrayah dashamasya vishuddhyartam navana mihalakshanam varnayanti mahatmana shrutenarthena chanjasa. The first 9 topics are in relation to the universe. How this universe is created, primary creation, secondary creation, how this universe is maintained, the different manvantaras in the universe, different Ishanukata, the different avatars to maintain this, who come to maintain the universe, to establish Dharma. And through that you understand the absolute truth, who is the Ashraya Tattva. So, in regard to the Vyashti, understanding the absolute truth by studying the individual living entity, so these 2 shlokas are quoted by Jiva Goswami in the Tattva Sandarbha. So therefore, it may appear that 32 and 39, which describes the individual living entity, it seems disconnected from the whole section, because Nimi Maharaj is asking about what is the position of Narayana, who is described as the Brahman and Paramatma. But now the same subject only is described, but through the Vyashti point of view, by studying the living entity. So Jiva Goswami also gives an example from the Upanishad. See, if the Jiva's spiritual nature is understood, then the nature of Brahman is easily grasped. That is the idea behind the analogy that Jiva Goswami gave in the previous Anucheda. Suppose a person is inside a cave, a dark cave. So he wants to understand what is the sun. He has never seen the sun. He is living in a dark cave, or he is put in a dark prison house. Then you try to explain the sun. Somewhere in one small opening in a window, one ray of sunlight is coming. You try to explain the sun through that ray of sunlight which is able to perceive. Just like a man in the cave learns about the nature of the sun by being instructed about the sun's ray, this technique of intuiting transcendent truth through similarity has been used in the Vedanta Sutra. In the Vedanta Sutra, Anyartascha Paramrishah, the deliberation upon the Jiva is in order to know the other. Anyartascha, that is the Paramatma. Therefore, in these 2 shlokas also, the Jivatma is described, that is for the purpose of knowing the the supreme absolute truth. So Baldev Vidya Bhushan, he says that there is in the Chandogya Upanishad, there is a section called as Dahara Vidya. That means meditation on Paramatma within the tiny space in the inner recess of the heart. The Dahara Vidya is taught. In that section, the body of the worshipper is considered to be the city of Brahman, within the Dahara of which lies the Paramatma. The worshipper is meant to meditate on the 8 qualities of the Paramatma. The 8 qualities of Paramatma must be knowing that. Vijara, Vimrityu, Vishoka, the 8 qualities of a liberated soul. Paramatma is free from sin, old age, death, apahata papa, and satya kama, satya sankalpa. And then in the same section, a mention is made of a blissful one who rises up out of the body, attains the divine light, and becomes established in his own real nature. He is called the Uttama Purusha, the most exalted person. So the Uttama Purusha, according to Baladev Vidya Bhushan, is the Jiva who has attained perfection by acquiring transcendental knowledge of Bhagavan. So this raises an obvious doubt. Why is the Jiva mentioned in the midst of the description of the Dahara, the subject of meditation on the Paramatma? Just like here, Nivi Maharaj's question is that, please describe the position of the Bhagavan Narayana. In the midst of the description, why Jivatma is described? In response to that, Vedanta Sutra says that the reference to the Jiva in the Dahara Vidya is not simply to convey the knowledge about the Jiva, but to lead to the knowledge of Paramatma. For by knowing Paramatma, the Jiva attains his real nature. Similarly, in 11.3.38, Pippalayana instructs King Nimi about the Jiva to educate him about the nature of the Lord. The purpose of the verse by Pippalayana is to distinguish the self from the body. So now we come to the shloka. So this is similar to Najayate Mriyate Va Kadachin. First 2 lines if you see. Natma Jajana Na Marishyati Naidate Sau. Atma is never born, will never die, nor does it grow or decay. Nakshiyate Savanavid. Vyabhichari Namhi. The soul is actually the knower of the youth, middle age, and death of the material body. Savanavit. Knower of these phases of time. And then Sarvatra Shashwad Anapayi. Upalabdha Matram. The soul can be understood to be pure consciousness, existing everywhere at all times and never being destroyed. Analogy is given, Prano Yatendriya Balena Vikalpitam Sat. Just as the life here within the body see, I'll go through the, we already read this translation. So although the Atma is exclusively of the nature of consciousness, present everywhere, Sarvatra, eternal, Shashwat, and invariable, Anapai, it appears to assume various forms under the influence of sense perception and cognition. Just as the vital force within the body is one, but it appears as if many. So the prana is one only. But we say, based on the different parts of the body, the prana has different functions. Apana Vayu, Vyana Vayu, Udana Vayu, Samana Vayu. The prana is actually one only. But it appears many, as if many in contact with the various senses. So, the Atma is one, but it appears to assume various forms under the influence of the sense perception and cognition. So, coming here, the purport. So, the Vedic aphorism, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, has been explained in this chapter of the Bhagavatam. The Supreme Lord is the original source of everything. By expanding his internal potency, he manifests the spiritual world. And by expanding his external potency, he manifests the material cosmos. So, the conditioned soul, internal potency of the Lord, but being in contact with illusion, he falls under the clutches of the external potency. So the wrong conception is the cause of fear. Ishad apetasya, when the living entity thinks that the material world is not part and parcel of the Lord's potency, then, but the separate existence liable to be controlled and enjoyed by the jiva soul, then he is under viparyaya. So Sridhar Swami says that the Lord's material potency is subject to transformation, change. Like matter gets transformed into Mahat Tattva, Mahat Tattva gets transformed into false ego, false ego in Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna gets transformed into different things. But the Jivatma, this is also potency of the Lord, Jivatma is not subject to transformation. That is what is explained, Natma, Jajana, Na Marishyate, Naidate so. Body undergo the 6 changes, but the Jivatma does not undergo the changes. So, the spirit soul never changes his eternal consciousnal position. Rather, he misidentifies with the external transformations of the material body. So, the word Sarvatra, some people may say Sarvatra means, somebody may interpret the word Sarvatra as Jiva is all pervading. Suppose if the Jiva is all pervading, then he should never fall into illusion, because he'll know everything if he's all pervading. But he is falling into illusion, that itself implies that he has an incomplete understanding of the reality. And Sarvatra is understood to mean that the spirit soul exists in all material conditions. So, for example, consciousness may not outwardly be manifest, yet the spirit soul is understood to be present within the body. Nitya sarvagatasthānur achaloyam sanatanaha. So, the consciousness of the soul is more or less manifest according to the possibilities offered by a particular material situation. Just as electric light is manifest in a particular intensity and color according to the bulb available. Or another example is that, suppose there is a lamp is there, suppose a candle light is there. But if you cover that candle light with another vessel, that candle light is confined only to that vessel. Practically outside that vessel, nobody perceives the existence of the candle light. But if the candle light is if the candle light is in front of the candle light, a opaque glass is put. From the other side, you may perceive that candle light in a better way, but not in a complete way, in a distorted way. But if there is no intermediate medium, then you get the complete effect of the candle light in the entire room. So similarly, the spirit soul, based on the body in which he is present, we perceive the presence of the spirit soul. The consciousness of the soul is manifest according to the possibilities offered by a particular material condition. So the argument may be raised that although the spirit soul is pure consciousness, upalabdhi matram, but it is our practical experience that consciousness is constantly transformed. Consciousness is constantly undergoing transformation. Now something is coming in our mind, next moment something else comes in our mind. So Sridhar Swami says that consciousness itself is eternal, but in contact with the material senses, it may be manifest in various ways. Prana is one, but in contact with the different senses, it is manifest as the power to see, power to hear, and so on. So consciousness is ultimately one, but in contact with the various senses, it may be perceived in terms of various sensory functions. But the state of consciousness is an eternal fact that cannot be changed, although it may be temporarily covered by Maya. So when a person becomes Krishna conscious, at that time he is no longer subject to bewilderment by falsely identifying his consciousness with the transformations of material nature. So therefore the Shastras say that Tattvam Asi. Tattvam Asi, Mayavadis say that you are that. This is one of the Mahavakya for them. They say that you are one with that absolute truth. Tattvam Asi. Madhvacharya, he gives explanation that Tattvam Asi, how all three words are holy names of Vishnu. Somewhere like that he gives explanation somewhere. So Tattvam Asi, you are that means you are qualitatively one with that absolute truth. Qualitatively, but not quantitatively. A Tattvam Asi, another meaning is that according to Tattvam Asi, just as the absolute truth is the supreme personality of Godhead, the individual Brahman is also an eternal personality. Tattvam Asi. So Jiva Goswami says that it is to be understood that the individual spark of Brahman is also eternally conscious. Vishwanath Chakravarti has pointed out that instead of wasting time trying to understand the truth in its impersonal aspect, which is merely the negation of the temporary material variety, one should try to understand oneself to be an eternal conscious entity in the Jiva category. The Jiva Goswami, Madhvacharya has quoted a verse from Mahabharata. Aham hi Jiva Samyo Vai. The living entity known as Jiva is not different from me. Mayi Jiva Sanatana. For he is my expansion. Thus the living entity is eternal, as I am and always exists within me. But you should not artificially think, now I have seen the soul. Rather, I, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will bestow this benediction upon you when you are actually qualified. The exact connection is not shown. So I will just read one small section from Tattva Sandarbha. So Jiva Goswami derives two arguments from the words of Pipalayana in this particular shloka, both of which serve to distinguish the Atma from the material body. So the first argument is that the body undergoes changes, but the Atma does not undergo the change. And so therefore we know ourselves to be the same person, since the attributes of changelessness and transformation cannot simultaneously be attributed to the same object. Therefore we say that body is different, soul is different from the body. The second argument Jiva Goswami says is that it is based on the distinction between the seer and the seen. So the body and the mind cannot be the seer. Body and mind cannot be the seer, because we say that, we always say that I saw with my eyes. Eyes are not the seer, eye is the instrument. or I am thinking like that. So the mind is an instrument. Mind is not the seer. If suppose if the real self is the eyes or the ears, if the senses are the ears, if the senses are the real self, and suppose if somebody is blind, that means he should be dead. Somebody is deaf, then he should be dead. But the person is actually still alive, actually. The mind and the senses are the instruments. They are not the seer. That the perceiver and Atma must be different from them. So now the next shloka gives further logical arguments to distinguish the self from the body. So the 38 and 39, he describes the Atma in order to understand the Supreme Brahman.
The translation they have written existing everywhere at all times. So is it I'm not able to accept fully.
The soul?
In the translation of the same verse, existing everywhere at all times. So this doesn't.
So it means basically existing everywhere at all times means the Atma can be present in any situation. It can be present in a Surya Loka, it can be present in Chandra Loka, it can be present deep within the ocean. Not that it's all pervading. That is why the purport it is clarified. Na? Sarvatra, if we say it is Jiva is all pervading, then the Jiva can never fall under illusion. See, one thing sometimes English language has sometimes a limitation, sometimes, or there could be a little more refinement. The translation may be required.
Soul has that ability to be present, like for example, spiritual master or exalted souls. So, do they have such ability actually to accept and reciprocate like the Supreme Lord?
Say, being all pervading or all knowing, Sarvagya, that is the quality of Bhagavan. When we say the spiritual master is one with Bhagavan, in what respect do we say? Spiritual master is non-different from Bhagavan. We talk about the aspect of his compassion. Actually. In that compassion quality, the spiritual master he can even be greater than Bhagavan also. Therefore, we say, but sometimes to the extent the Supreme Lord empowers, the spiritual master can get knowledge. He can be the sense Sarvagya, the sense. To the extent the Lord empowers, like there are stories of Prabhupada, some devotees telling when they were going to meet Prabhupada, what was going on in their mind, Prabhupada telling something exactly in relation to what was going on in their mind. So the Lord empowers. At the same time, we cannot literally say the spiritual master is all-knowing. He cannot know what is happening in Antarctica or this one. Principle-wise, okay, he may not understand the nature of the material world. But the spiritual master is one with Bhagavan in this aspect of compassion. And he can be, to some extent, know what is happening in others' mind to the extent the Lord empowers.
Are there, like for example, Indra or sun. Now, without mercy of sun, I can't see. So, is it that he is seeing whatever I am seeing? Or Indra for hand and so on, for every part of our knowledge acquiring sense, or even they have certain control. So, are they able to also perceive what we see? Because
but they are mentioned as the witnesses. Yamadutas, they mention. The witnesses of every action, they mention some 10, 12 witnesses, na? Sun, moon, directions, 6 kind of. So they're witnessing that. Yes. Yamaraj is also sometimes described as a all-knowing because he is empowered to see. He has that particular job to give punishment. Therefore, he is also told to given the empowerment to see. Next shloka. Andeshu peshishu tarushu avinischiteshu prano hi jivamupadavati tatra tatra sanne yadindriya gane amicha prasupte kutastha ashayamrute tadanusmritirna.
The spirit soul is born in many different species of life within the material world. Some species are born from eggs, others from embryos, others from the seeds of the plants and trees, and others from perspiration. But in all species of life, the prana or the vital air remains unchanging and follows the spirit soul from one body to another. Similarly, the spirit soul is eternally the same despite its material condition of life. We have practical experience of this. When we are absorbed in deep sleep without dreaming, the material senses become inactive, and even the mind and false ego are merged into the dormant condition. But although the senses, mind, and false ego are inactive, one remembers upon waking that the soul was peacefully sleeping.
So the realization of the changeless nature of Atma is explained here. So just as the vital force remains unchanging, avinishchiteshu pranam, prano hi jivam upadavati, so the vital force remains unchanging as it accompanies the individual living being. Jivam upadavati, in whichever different species it may appear. It could be andeshu, pesheshu, tarushu, avinishchiteshu. Born from eggs, wombs, seeds, or perspiration. The prana remains unchanging as it accompanies the individual living being. So the Atma is unchanging in the state of sushupti, when the senses and ego are deactivated. Shanneja yad indriya gane hamicha prasupte. And there is freedom from the subtle body, which is the cause of transformation. Yet upon awakening, the remembrance comes to us that we slept peacefully without awareness of anything. This indicates that in the deep sleep, the self is present as the pure witness, devoid of the content of sensory, mental, or egoic awareness. Kutastha ashayamrite tad anusmritirna. So, Jagrati, Swapna, Sushupti. Jagrati, mind and senses are active. A simple example, it is like a mobile phone when all the apps are active. That is like a Jagrati stage. Swapna, senses are not active, mind is active. It's like a mobile phone in the airplane mode. In airplane mode, some apps are become inactive. Say SMS or WhatsApp, Gmail will become inactive. But still there are other apps, some other apps are active. And then the deep sleep is like even the mind becomes inactive. That is like a mobile phone which is switched off. But we see after the deep sleep, when a person gets up, he says that I slept nicely, I had a good sleep. So that means that even within deep sleep, there was something which was active, who perceived that state of deep sleep. Who is that person? That is the Atma, who is different from the mind, senses, intelligence. Just like in the mobile phone example, is like you switch off the mobile phone at night at 10 p.m. Morning 4:30, you switch on the mobile phone. But what time you see in the morning? Do you see it as 10 p.m. or 4:30? We see it as 4:30. So that means there is something within the mobile phone that was active even during the switched off state, which is informing us that now the timing is 4:30. Just like similarly, that when we say I slept nicely after a deep sleep, there was something who was observing the state of deep sleep. So that same example is given. So this shows that the witness is different from what he is witnessing. That witness is the Atma. That Atma is different from the senses, mind, intelligence, and ego. So having thus illustrated through the simile the changeless nature of the vital force, the sage Pippalayana points out that the self is also changeless by mentioning it as analogous to the vital force. How so? The self appears as if subject to change during the waking state. During the waking state, it appears that the self is subject to change because we are coming in contact with the senses. And during the dream state also, when in contact with the ego, the self appears to undergo change. We are imagining different things. But when the Atma is in deep sleep, the senses and ego become temporarily deactivated. And so the Atma alone is present, free from all transformation. How is it free from transformation in that state? Because it is without its vessel of containment, which refers to the limiting or conditioning adjunct of the subtle body. The deep sleep state, the subtle body is also not functioning. So Atma is free from the specific upadhi, that is the cause of all transformation. That is why in the state of deep sleep, a person is neither in contact with the subtle body or the gross body. So he gets a glimpse of the Brahmananda. Brahmananda or the Kaivalya Mukti, in that a person experiences the Ananda of simply Atma, of being alone, experiencing, realizing the Ananda from the Atma. So that is why yogis, although they sleep less, they get very refreshed because they go into deep sleep. In the yogasana practice also, yoga nidra and this one, one of the aspect of yoga exercise is how to go into deep sleep. Because deep sleep, even it is for a small period, it will refresh a person, because in the state of deep sleep, a person gets a glimpse of Brahmananda, and that refreshes a person to face again the struggles of the world. So one may object, when everything up to and including the ego is dissolved, only emptiness remains. So how can you conclude that the changeless self is present at that time? Because after we get up from the deep sleep, the remembrance comes to us. Tad anusmritirnaha. Last line, last word in the shloka. Upon awakening, the remembrance comes to us. I slept peacefully for so long without awareness of anything. Since there can be no remembrance of that which has not first been experienced, the Atma must be present then as witness to perceive the experience of deep sleep. Though this experience is indistinct, because of the absence of contact with any content or object of awareness. So we can therefore conclude that just as the self-luminous entity like the sun, which is in essence nothing other than light, also naturally contains the power of illumination, so the Atma, though nothing other than consciousness, Upalabdhi Matram, is also the ground of consciousness. We find the following confirmation in the Shruti. It is true that he does not see, or rather, although seeing, he does not perceive the observables. Furthermore, it is never possible to remove the seer's sight altogether. So, in this shloka, with this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is not exactly clear, but in this shloka, two arguments are presented to distinguish the Atma from the body. To based on the distinction between the witness and that which is witnessed. Witness and that which is witnessed. So, the witness is the Atma, that which is witnessed, the grass body and the different situations of the grass body, or the dreaming state, what we witness, or in the deep sleep, we are witnessing the state of deep sleep. And the fourth argument, or the second argument in the shloka, is also to be understood based on the distinction between the entities who undergo suffering and the entity who is the exclusive object of transcendental love. So the Jivatma, although he experiences Brahmananda in the state of deep sleep, but he cannot be permanently present in that state of deep sleep because the dormant material desires are there. He is not purified. Unless he adopts a process to purify the material desires, he cannot permanently be in the state of samadhi. In the deep sleep, the Atma is alone with the Paramatma. So he gets a glimpse of experience of the Brahmananda. But desires are not purified, he is not able to be permanently be present there. And he again comes and faces the challenges and the sufferings in the world. But the Paramatma is eternally in the transcendental love. The distinction, so therefore we can understand the distinction between the entity which undergoes suffering and the exclusive object of love. So in that way, the Jivatma is presented, Jivatma is described by how Jivatma is the witness of the states of Jagrati, Swapna and Sushupti. And because the Jivatma is suffering, but the Paramatma is peaceful, Jivatma is distinct from the Paramatma, that is also explained. So this Jagrati, Swapna, Sushupti, that is explained in the first paragraph. The Madhvacharya has explained that the demigods, who are a superior race of human-like entities, do not actually undergo the gross ignorance of deep sleep, as do the ordinary human beings. Because the demigods have superior intelligence, they are not merged into ignorance at the time of sleeping. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Sleep is apohanam, or forgetfulness. Sometimes by dreaming, there is smriti or memory of one's actual condition. Although in a dream, one may experience one's family or friends in an altered illusory state, but all such conditions of remembering and forgetting are due to the presence of the super soul within the heart. By the mercy of the super soul, one can have a preliminary glimpse of the soul by remembering how one who was peacefully resting even without mental or sensual experience. So these are some points explained in the shloka. Yes, sir.
Guruji, this deep sleep is it a conducive thing for our practice of Krishna consciousness? And if it is, then are there any suggestions or how to go in that?
Like
Because
Prabhupada said
it's
once that purpose of Krishna conscious movement is like should work hard so nicely for Krishna that as soon as we go to sleep, we have a sound sleep. There's a purport in second canto, 7th chapter. Brahmaji describes the incarnations of the Lord. He describes when he speaks about Krishna, he says the Vrajavasis, they had a sound sleep at the night because they would work hard in the daytime. And there's a deep sleep is, you see, here it is clearly mentioned that the inhabitants of Vrindavan were extensively busy in the hard labor of their day's work, and due to their day's hard labor, they were engaged in sound sleep at night. So practically, they had very little time to devote to meditation or to the other paraphernalia of spiritual activities. Everything done by them was spiritualized because everything was detailed in the relationship with Krishna. Central point of activities was Krishna, and so that is an advantage of the way of Bhakti Yoga. Okay. We are already coming to 7. We are not able to cover many shlokas. So just next shloka will cover. This at least this section will get over. यर्ह्यब्जनाभचरणैषणयोर्भक्त्या चेतो मलानि विदमेद् गुणकर्मजानि तस्मिन् विशुद्ध उपलभ्यत आत्मतत्त्वं साक्षात् यथाप्तलदृशो सवितृप्रकाश.
When one seriously engaged in the devotional service of the personality of Godhead, fixing the Lord's lotus feet within one's heart as the only goal of life, one can destroy the innumerable impure desires lodged within the heart as a result of one's previous fruitive work within the three modes of material nature. When the heart is thus purified, one can directly perceive both the Supreme Lord and oneself as transcendental entities. Thus, one becomes perfect in spiritual understanding through direct experience, just as one can directly experience the sunshine through normal, healthy vision.
So, see here in this shloka it is mentioned, after having had the material desires at the lotus feet of the Lord, when one destroys the contamination in the heart, after having had material desires, the lotus feet of the Lord. So when one seriously engages in bhakti, fixing the Lord's lotus feet, yarhi abjanaba charanai shanaya uru bhaktiya, within one's heart as the only goal of life. At that time, cheto malani vidamed, one can destroy the innumerable impure desires lodged within the heart as a result of one's previous fruitive work, guna karma jani. So tasmin vishuddha upalabhyata atma tattvam. When the heart is thus purified, one can directly perceive both the Supreme Lord and oneself as transcendental entities. Atma tattvam upalabhyata sakshat yata amala drisho, with the pure eyes. So one becomes perfect in spiritual understanding through direct experience, just as Savitri Prakasha, one can directly experience the sunshine through normal healthy vision. So if a person has a realization of the changeless nature of the Atma during the deep sleep, then how then he continues in the samsara on waking up? Why can't he experience that Brahmananda continuously? If we say that there are still impressions of ignorance, then when will a person get realization of the pure Atma? So that is why this verse says that Yarki Ambuja Abjanaba Charanai Shanayaur Bhaktya. A prisoner, he may get a glimpse of the free sunlight available outside the prison house by just getting a glimpse of the sun ray. But still, simply by getting a glimpse of that sunlight, he cannot come out of the prison cell. He has to go through a process. He has to exhibit that how he has been transformed. Then only he will be released. Similarly, although a conditioned soul may have a glimpse of the spirit soul during the state of deep sleep, he remains captured within the bondage. So therefore, he has to adopt a process to process of purification. A specific process is required. So material desires produce the material bodies. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram. Karmana daiva naitrena jantur dehopapattaye. So if one can eliminate the cause of a particular phenomenon, logically he also eliminates the effect. So the cause of the material bondage is, what is the ultimate cause? Avidya. If the avidya is destroyed, if the papa is destroyed, still you can commit papa because the desires are present. Even if you remove the desires, but if the avidya is there, still one can be bound. But if the avidya is destroyed, you don't have to worry about, oh, will I again misuse the free will or like that. The avidya is destroyed, there is no more question of bondage. Yat gatvana nivartanti taddama param. So one should give up the illusory desires for material society, friendship, etc. One should fix his mind on the Supreme Lord. So that is described as Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. So the Lord can be directly perceived as soon as one's heart has become transparently clean through Bhakti Yoga. So Gita says that when Bhagavad Gita describes the state of achieving the Supreme Lord as Tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram, but this sentence is interpreted by certain people that the Jivatma becomes one with the Bhagavan, Brahma Sayujyam. But it is clearly mentioned in this verse that one must fix his mind and devotion on the lotus feet of Abjanaba. If the individual living entity were equal to the personality of Godhead, the living entity can simply think of himself only. Even then a contradiction would arise. The personality of Godhead has no need to be purified. If he himself is the Bhagavan, then he can just simply think of himself. But if himself is Bhagavan, then why does he need to get purified? Because he is described as Pavitram Paramam Bhavan in the Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, Vishate tad anantaram, to explain that verse as one becomes one with the Brahman. So that is twisting the meaning of the shloka, giving an impersonal meaning. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the perfect stage of devotional service, it can be observed in the activities of Dhruva Maharaj, who initially had an ambition to get a very high position. But when he was purified by chanting, he felt no further need for material sense gratification. Janayatyashu vairagyam. As soon as one advances in devotional service, one is freed from the embarrassment of superficial material desires. So upalabhya ta atma tattvam. Vishwanath Chakravarti says that knowledge of the soul indicates knowledge of the personality of Godhead along with his various expansions such as the impersonal Brahma Jyoti and the marginal living entity himself. So, Sakshat, perceiving the personality of Godhead means seeing the personal form of the Lord, his hands and legs, his various transcendental vehicles and servants, so on. So, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur tells in his purport, verse number 35 to through 39, the various stages of the standard logic are demonstrated. The standard logic, generally a person first proposes a Vishaya or a general thesis, what he wants to establish. So 35th shloka, what is the general thesis? 35th shloka, that Sthit Yudbhava Pralaya Hetu Raheturasya. That is the Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, they are explained in one shloka. That's the thesis one wants to realize. And then 36th shloka gave samshaya, expression of doubt. How is explaining 36 explains the doubt? Doubt is that the absolute truth cannot be known through the mind, words, senses, intelligence, etc. So if it cannot be known through any of these faculties, even through the Vedic words, that the doubt is created. And then 37th shloka gives the Purva Paksha or opposing argument. Opposing argument. The absolute truth is one, but he expands into multifarious Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, Sutra Tattva, Mahat Tattva. How it is opposing argument, it's not immediately clear to me. Purva Paksha. And 38th shloka establishes a Siddhanta or a conclusion. 38th shloka gives the Siddhanta. This part is, I'm sorry, it's not how it is Purva Paksha and Siddhanta, it's not immediately clear for me. If somebody knows also, they can share. And 39th is the Sangati, the summary. 39th we can understand. 39th is the summary. 40th appears like a summary. 40th appears to be like a summary. So this part I think we may have to slightly check with if there is a original commentary of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. So thus by cleansing the mirror of the heart, one can see the Lord just as a normal human being with a healthy vision can very easily see the brilliant rays of the sun, or as an advanced devotee of the sun god can see the personal body of the sun god. So we've completed here. 220.
Only one question is there.
Yes. If there are any questions or doubts, we'll take. Otherwise, I'll not go ahead.
One question. Can I ask, Guruji?
Yes, Rob.
Guruji, this now you said that avidya is a main cause of bondage of all living entities. Or basically, whatever wrong he is doing is because of avidya. So now this avidya he cannot cleanse. We also know that only by devotional service it can be fully cleansed.
Yes, sir.
So till the time the living entity is committing something wrong, then why he is caught responsible also for that? Like if avidya is means without cause, avidya is without cause, then why he is held responsible for acting according under the influence of avidya then? If he is not the cause, if living entity is living entity is the cause for avidya? Or
No.
it is, yes, Prabhuji.
Avidya is described as anadya vidya,
So,
beginningless avidya.
so who is the cause for that avidya? Means, okay, we cannot explain the cause, but who is the cause for the avidya?
There is no cause for it.
So either living entity is the cause for the avidya or supreme personality of Brahma. So anything, surely Janmadhyasya, the supreme lord is means the ultimate cause for anything. We can, so but we cannot explain the cause. But I am saying then why living entity is held responsible for that avidyas when he is working under that avidya.
So that avidya is described as anadi,
Ultimately,
that means there's no
the
cause.
freedom, yeah, ultimate.
There's no cause actually. Neither the living entity nor the jivatma, that avidya, it is causeless avidya. Anadi avidya, beginningless avidya, beginningless, it also implies that it has no cause, which is inconceivable. Inconceivable, beginningless, causeless avidya. So when we say, yesterday also one devotee asked, if Krishna is the cause of all causes, sarva karana karanam, then how can you say that, oh, then if he is not the cause of this, then his position as sarva karana karanam is at question. So I gave the answer, like at the end of the personified Vedas prayers, Vedas conclude by saying that even you cannot estimate the limit of your glories. That is the conclusion of the Vedas, 10.87.41. So in that connection, Vishwanath Chakravarti says that, but Krishna is supposed to be Sarvagya. If he is Sarvagya, he should be knowing everything. He should know the limit of his glories also. Then how can he be, if he does not know, how can he be Sarvagya? So he says that, suppose if somebody is not aware of a horn of a rabbit, that does not disqualify him from being a Sarvagya, because in this world there is nothing called as a horn of a habit. There is nothing called as an Akasha Pushpa. So similarly, there is nothing, the limit of the Lord's glory, it does not exist only. So if he does not know that, then that does not disqualify him from being a Sarvagya. So similarly, this avidya is causeless. Because it is beginningless, it is causeless. So therefore, that does not disqualify him from being a Sarva Karana Karana. So this avidya is causeless or beginningless, but it can be destroyed. That is why it is called as, out of the 5 topics of Gita, karma is actually temporary. Other 4 are eternal. Karma is temporary. When karma it is temporary, that means Baldev Vidya Bhushan, if you Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Baldev Vidya Bhushan says that out of the 5 topics, karma or avidya, it has no beginning, but it has an end. Therefore, it is temporary.
No, Prabhuji, my question was, sorry, my network got weak. My question was why Jiva is held responsible for avidya when he is not the cause of avidya. When he is doing some activity under avidya, why he is held responsible for that? If he is not the cause of avidya.
Because he is continuing to misuse his free will. When we say the initial misuse of the free will, that has no beginning. that avidya has no beginning, but he is misusing the free will, so therefore he is responsible for it. Right. What we say, jiva is not the cause of avidya. What we are saying that avidya is basically beginningless, we say. But it's a fact that jiva is misusing the free will, so therefore there is no denying about the fact that the jiva misusing the free will. He has been misusing the free will since beginningless time. That's what we are saying. Because he is misusing the free will, therefore he is held responsible. But he has been misusing the free will since beginningless time.
But Prabhuji, one more thing, he is misusing the free will because of avidya only, na? As you said that if he has avidya, if avidya goes away, then he will never misuse his free will.
Yeah, because avidya is misusing the free will, correct. But why the jivatma is held responsible? If the jivatma wants, he can come out of the avidya. He can come out of the avidya, but he doesn't want to come out of the avidya because he wants to continue to misuse the free will. What we are just saying is that he has been misusing the free will since the beginningless time. That avidya is beginningless. That's all. He is given facility to come out of that avidya regularly, but he is not coming out of the avidya. He has the freedom to come out of it. He is given the facility for it, but he doesn't come out of it. Therefore, he is misusing that opportunity. Are you getting it? Haribo?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
I'm not. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
He has been given the facility to come out of the avidya regularly to the shastra, to the guru, to the devotees. He is being reminded through the miseries of the material existence. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, they are all reminders to the jivatma that he is misusing the free will, therefore he is getting this. So he can come out of the avidya. He can come out of the avidya by taking shelter of the sadhu, sangha, shastra. But he is not doing it, so therefore he is responsible for it.
So Prabhuji, if somebody surrenders to the Lord and still he commits mistakes because of his illusion, whatever, so he should not be held responsible for in that region, in that case, because he has surrendered to the Lord and still because of illusion he is committing some mistakes.
When a person surrenders to Krishna, all his actually karmas are gone. All his karmas are destroyed. But still he gets reactions. They are directly given by Krishna. They are directly given by Krishna in order to bring the devotee closer to him more. Krishna gives that in order to increase his love towards him. It's not coming from his karma. If a person has surrendered to Krishna, whatever is coming in his life, it is not because of his karma. Or Krishna allows the prarabdha karma to keep having its effect in his life. By the surrender, the karma is destroyed, but the Krishna allows the prarabdha karma to keep having in his life, because in order to, for different reasons, one is to maintain the confidentiality of bhakti, and another is to bring the devotee close to him. Ajamil, just by chanting the first holy name, when he first named the child as Narayana, the child was born, by that chanting itself, he was relieved of all the sins. But even after that, he continued to stay with the prostitute and perform different sinful activities. So that they are like the biting of a toothless snake. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that why he continued to exhibit those symptoms, it was all the sinful desire, avidya were destroyed by the first chanting. So the Lord, in order to maintain the confidentiality of bhakti, he allows those things to happen. Or in order to bring the devotee more closer to him, he allows those reactions. So you are able to hear?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji, yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you.
That's what I can think of. If I get some more points, I'll share. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for all your patient attention. I definitely wanted to complete till 5th chapter, but it seems like at least till 4th chapter will complete it. Let's see. Or a 5th chapter somewhere in the middle.
Prabhuji, it is not a pressure, Prabhuji. Means you whatever speed when we can all understand clearly, that speed we can go, Prabhuji.
Okay. If there is, in case some things are not understandable, if we need more clarification, we can ask questions. I'll try to my best.
Topics are very wonderful, Prabhuji.
Mhm.
Nice topic.
Hare Krishna.
Giving more impetus to increase our consciousness.
Mhm. So we'll end here.
Very much interesting. Nice. Explained, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय।
Thank you.
हरे कृष्ण।